Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 33 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rise to speak on the bill.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to make 3 quick points. One, with respect to the records, which we've heard so much about, what we're talking about, I want to be clear again, is we're talking about only those who've been convicted or admitted to committing escape in the first degree that requires physical force, robbery, arson, kidnapping, rape, sodomy, manslaughter in the first degree, or murder. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so we've heard about employment and about churches, and those are important things. But here's why those records have to be open. This is just for 3 years after the offense. So if they're 16, they would be closed at 19. If they're 17, they'd be closed at 20. Well, the problem, if you don't have it, and again, we're only talking about children who've been convicted of or admitted to these violent offenses, is if you don't have that, when somebody becomes 18, they can walk into a gun store and buy an AR. So they could have a long history of committing crimes while they're 15, 16, 17. And then when they turn 18, they can go into a gun store and buy an AR. I don't think anybody wants that. So in addition to the employment situations that we've talked about, I think that is a reason to say it would be wildly inappropriate not to allow these records to be open for a limited amount of time. And I invite my friends on the other side to recognize the extreme error in their ways and their thinking and understand that they don't want these 18-year-olds with that long record to go and buy ARs. So understand that you're just wrong on this issue, if you would. The 2 other issues I want to talk about are the detention for 48 hours. That detention is a maximum of 48 hours. And why are we doing that? We're doing that because we're trying to get to these kids. They've committed very bad crimes. I've just outlined the only ones that are covered by this bill. And we had some judges come and talk to us as we were working through this a few months ago. And one of the judges came to us and said, I am put in a terrible situation. On one hand, I can release the juvenile back to the community, back to their parent. And I got moms saying, please don't do this to me. Don't put the kid back in my family. They need help. I can't control him. He's going to kill himself. He's going to kill somebody else. He's already been charged, obviously, with one of these, or we're not even talking about that kid. So please don't release my child. He needs help. And so the judge says, on one hand, this is what I have. What a terrible decision that is. So what if I don't do that? What's my other option? My other option is to keep the kid in the detention facility, going to, right now, if you're from Louisville, to Adair County, where those areas are not equipped to handle the gangs that we know, unfortunately, are rampant in Louisville, where our spike in crime is largely due to juveniles. That's what our judges tell us. That's what our police chief tells us. That's what our mayors tell us. These are not arch conservatives. These are people who love these kids just like all of us do. And so the judge says, my second option is to send them to Adair County, where I know there's not enough programming. What's going to happen? We've had 2 people get assaulted, 1 get gang raped in Adair County. They're not going to get the programming. So what am I supposed to do? Please tell me, help me. So what is Representative Bratcher the gentleman from Jefferson 29 trying to do? He's trying to do 2 things. One, he's trying to have a facility where we can have all of these services just focused on these kids. Focused on these kids, these violent offenders, and everybody else too, but this bill's about the violent offenders. That's what he's trying to do with regard to giving that judge an option in Louisville. And also with the 48 hours, what he's trying to do is he's trying to say, before we release them, let's let the judge have information. We don't release adult criminals unless they went through NCIS and pretrial officer. We give them a big interview, called their references, and then we present that information to the judge and we say, here's their damage, here's their harm, risk of harm to themselves or others, or their risk of fleeing. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to say, let's get this kid. What do they need? What are their problems? What's the context in which they live? And then let's get these folks help. So this is a bill, in my view, that is designed to help that kid, first and foremost, but also, to the point that my friend, the gentleman from Jessamine made, it's also designed to protect our communities, because we can't just release them back into the communities without help. That will create not accountability, but that will create future victims that we must stop. We've all talked, this is the last point I'm going to make, we've all talked to constituents who tell us How in the world does somebody carjack me and then they get released the next day? What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how do we stop that and get that kid who committed the carjacking back on track, because he's going to get back out in our community where he can be a good citizen, a good mom and a dad in the future, and a good child. And so that's what this bill is doing. And I want to commend the gentleman from Jefferson 29 for bringing the bill. And I invite my friends who have criticized the bill to understand the error of their ways and to vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.